and welcome to another episode of the Don't Argue with the Facts podcast. I'm your host, Noah Love, and today we will be going over everything college football week 12. College football week 12 is in the books. Only two more regular season Saturdays. It went by so fast, but we're going to break everything down here on Don't Argue with the Facts podcast. Upsets, domination, you know it. There's going to be some movement in the rankings. The college football playoff rankings are going to be must see tonight, and we'll talk about that tomorrow. But yeah, let's just get straight into it. Let's start at the top. Notre Dame dominates Pitt to essentially punch a ticket to the playoff, 37-15. Pete Narduzzi came out for Pitt. Their head coach came out and said, this isn't a must-win game. And Pitt played like it because they did not play well at all. At least from the offense side. I thought the defense was okay at times. Jeremiah Lovesman was great in this game. 23 carries, 147 yards, a touchdown. Mike Denbrock is he's been getting him the ball, which is a big thing. Notre Dame dominated this game from start to finish. That's what this was. They just dominated start to finish. Pitt was, Mason Heinsteingel, he's been good for them this season. He was not good in this football game. They could not get anything going. I thought Notre Dame did a great job of really jumping on them early and not letting the crowd really get into it at all. It's a big time win for Notre Dame. And look, they may get a home game now in the playoff. I'll talk about why they may get that a little bit later in this video. But yeah, that's a great win for Notre Dame. Pitt, their next two games here, they say it's a must win. Technically, it wasn't a must win. Technically, it was right, but you just don't say that. They play at Georgia Tech this upcoming week at 7 o'clock. That's a massive game. And they play Miami at home to end the season. Win those two, they go to the ACC title game. And that would mean they're 4 quarters away from a playoff appearance. So yeah, Notre Dame, I say they clinched their spot because let's just be honest about it. Look, they play Syracuse and Stanford in their final 2 regular season games. Unless they have just a game where it's just a disaster, they're going to playoff. They're going to playoff. Whether you like it or not, Notre Dame is going to the playoff. They would have won 10 straight, beat 2 ranked teams. Whether you love it, you hate it, you don't like it, it doesn't matter. Notre Dame is going to the playoff. They'll probably be in the top 7 tonight. Maybe 8. It depends on what they do with Alabama. That's going to be interesting. We will talk about them later. And yeah, that's it. But that was even the biggest story of the early window. The biggest story of the early window was Texas A&M. Texas A&M being down 30-3 in the first half. They storm all the way back to stun South Carolina 31-30. Let's just be honest about this game. Texas A&M was having just the Mona Lisa of all collapses. Let's just be honest about it. In the first half, South Carolina jumped on them early, but you're thinking, okay, 17-3, down 2 scores, so they'll come back, right? Then it's 30-3 at the half. Oh my goodness, what is happening? Hey, look, the way this game was going, I'm like, where do you even drop A&M if this performance continues? Because you had to think about this. Everything that could have gone wrong in that first half went wrong. Marcel Reed played awful, threw some bad interceptions. The offensive line was getting beat. Dylan Stewart and Brian Thomas for South Carolina was wrecking A&M's. They were just wrecking A&M's offensive line. The receivers that have been so great this season could not catch the ball. From a defensive standpoint, Nick Harper had a big 80-yard touchdown catch that couldn't happen. You could not stop Lenore Sellers. You couldn't do it early in the game. The first half, special teams wise, we missed two kicks. We missed a chip shot that just doinks off the upright. What is happening? To end the half, I thought South Carolina had a chance to put a dagger in them and go up 34-3, and they did not have it. Texas A&M held them to a field goal. A&M in the second half outscored South Carolina 28-0. They essentially made up the ground in one quarter. They took the lead with about 10 minutes to go left in the fourth. So essentially a quarter in I don't even want to say a half. Like crazy. South Carolina came out in that second half and they coached scared. They were not aggressive. Shane Beamer going into halftime like he's trying to pump up the South Carolina fans. Oh, we beat this team by 24 last year. Yeah, Shane, I don't know if you know this, but you have a second half to play. You have a second half to play. And what did you do in the second half? Absolutely nothing. And this is how crazy this comeback is for A&M. College football playoff hopes on the line. A&M's having the A&M game, and you know what I mean by that. Oh, classic A&M. This is what they do. And I got to give them credit. The first half was bad. They shook it off. They came out and they played A&M style of football in the second half. Weld oil machine. Marcel Reed was unconscious. He was unconscious. Let's just be, that man was unconscious in the second half. He was fantastic. 439 yards, 3 touchdowns, 2 picks. South Carolina, this is an awful collapse. The Alabama game was already bad in itself. That was already bad. This is way worse. Because you were only up 8. You were up 30-3. And it wasn't one of those where, okay, Texas A&M scratching, crawling back. Oh, a couple fluke plays happen. They get back in it. They end up winning. No, they walked you down so quick. And you had no answer. To me, this says a lot about A&M's grit. To be down 30-3 at home to a 3-16. And look, South Carolina, similar to Penn State in terms of, South Carolina hasn't fired their coach. Should have, but haven't. They're similar based on the fact that they have bad records, but they have NFL talent. Like Sellers, Harbor, Dylan Stewart, even Brian Thomas might be NFL guys. So yeah, I thought A&M in the second half the explosive plays. I mean, you're just watching every throw. You're thinking, okay, 15 yards, 20 yards, 10 yards, 50. Like this one, it was incredible. What a comeback win for A&M that puts them in the driver's seat for the SEC title game. All they gotta do is win out. We'll see. We'll see. I don't even. They play Stanford this week, yeah, though, and then they play Texas. We'll see what happens. Look, the college football before Thanksgiving slate. It isn't great, but yeah, A&M, great win, great win, great win. Will they drop one in the CFP rankings? I don't think so. If IU didn't drop, then they shouldn't. Speaking of IU, they dominated 31-7. Indiana's just rolling. They get a bye, and then they play Purdue was a chance to clinch a Big Ten title game berth, which they should do in West Lafayette. 4 touchdowns for Mendoza, 22 of 24. Was unconscious. The defense played really well. Wisconsin stinks as well. Indiana dominant, took care. Started off a little slow, but took care of business. Now let's get into also a big game. Navy upset South Florida 41-38, which puts the college football playoff group of 5 spot just in limbo. We have no idea. You're gonna assume JMU's gonna get it in the Sun Belt. Oh, brother, that's not gonna be. That's yeah. Look, JMU, they've been the most consistent, but let's be honest about it. The Sun Belt isn't as good as the American Conference. Okay. Navy finds a way to win. Horvath got actually nicked up in the game. They had Braxton Woodson come in. He played last week against Notre Dame. They have him come in and he breaks a big run. He has 2 touchdown runs on the game. They just were able to run the ball at will. The reason South Florida, if they don't go to the playoff, which essentially, look, they're kind of cooked when they don't go to the playoff. The reason they're not gonna go is because of the defense. The defense has let them down against Memphis and Navy. Navy ran for 338 yards. South Florida ran for 200. Both run defenses were not good on Saturday. Let's just be honest. It wasn't good. Both are like South Florida has a very, 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 very good offense. And they're going to be left out of the playoff, most likely because their defense just could not come up clutch. Navy controlled the time of possession. When you run for 338 yards, you're going to do that. The passing game for them wasn't the greatest thing you'll ever see, but it's Navy. They're running the ball. In terms of who controls their own destiny now in the American, funny enough, it is North Texas. They control their own destiny as well because look, Navy does as well. Navy plays Memphis. We'll see. What we'll see what happens with that. Obviously, Memphis lost to East Carolina. They're done. Memphis is done in terms of their playoff hopes. That I mean, the loss to Tulane that killed them, but now they're done. To me, it's between 3 teams: Navy, Tulane, North Texas. South Florida's going to need a lot of help. I don't think they'll get it. Memphis plays Tulane, which is interesting because Memphis does have the ability to kind of, Navy plays two. Wait, hold on. I got that wrong. Navy plays Memphis. Memphis does have the ability to probably knock Navy out. Let's be honest about it. North Texas at 5-1 and 9-1. Look, their last two games they play Rice and Temple, which means they'll probably be 11-1 with that quarterback in that offense, which means there's a good chance they'll be in the American Championship game. There's a very real possibility. Tulane to end the season plays Temple and Charlotte. I think Navy probably loses on the road at Memphis. And we could have a situation where in the American, it's North Texas versus Tulane. I know East Carolina has one loss as well. I don't know how the tiebreaker will work there. I don't know. But the American, look, it's fun. It's a good conference with some good teams. It is fun, and South Florida finding a way to win. South Florida finding ways to lose, Navy finding a way to win these games. And you have to ask yourself, if Navy goes to the playoff, that would be interesting because they still have to play Army Navy the week after the American Championship game. It'd just be a whole mess. I do think that offense could give somebody some issues in the playoff. Okay, Michigan. Let me take a sip of my water. Michigan survives. They survive against Northwestern. 5 turnovers, doesn't matter. They get it done 24-22. This game, man, Michigan continued to shoot themselves in the foot. They just couldn't get out of their own way. They just couldn't in this football game. Like, we have to be honest about it. Michigan is an interesting team because when you watch them, and I've watched them a lot this year, they don't really move you. They can run the ball. Underwood's good, but they make a lot of mistakes. And in some of these games, because they're not playing the upper echelon of the Big Ten, it doesn't cost them. Again, against USC, it cost them because upper echelon. Against Ohio State, you turn the ball over 5 times, you're getting blown out by 30. Like, that's just kind of what that is. Northwestern, Preston. I did say it'd be a rock fight, but look, the ability for Michigan to overcome a 5 turnover game, not a lot of teams can do that. So I think that does say a lot about Michigan finding a way to win. By the way, they ran the ball for 216 yards. Again, Michigan can still run the football. That's the one thing they're going to do. Underwood had a couple of turnovers where it just made you go, Andrew Marsh had a day. Andrew Marsh, had a day for 12 for 189 and no touchdowns. The walk-off field goal by Zavada, who had missed, I think he missed a field goal early. Yeah, he missed a field goal earlier in the game. Again, it was miscues. Just a clock. You're watching this game and you're thinking, they're really going to lose to Northwestern. And then the final drive happens. and they get out of there. Look, 5 turnovers. They control their destiny to the CFP. If they can beat Ohio State, they have a chance. Also, they do have a chance to get to the Big Ten title game. Now, that's going to depend on what USC does in the final two weeks. And obviously, they have to beat Ohio State for that even to be a conversation. Because Indiana plays Purdue. Indiana's not losing to Purdue. That's just, if that happens, keep them out the whole playoff. But yeah, look, gritty, good win for Michigan. Really haven't been like impressed with them this year. They're a very young team. Now, granted, I picked them to go 8-4, 9-3, I believe, somewhere around there, and they're 8-2 right now. So props to the Wolverines. Now to the 3:30 window. Virginia at Duke. We'll go over this quick. Virginia dominates Duke 34-17. Virginia offensively was really good, and now they control their own destiny in terms of the ACC title game. The ACC is a disaster. We know this. Georgia Tech survived against Boston College by 2. Georgia Tech, if they win next week, or this upcoming week, they go to the ACC title game because they don't have another game in the ACC. Like their ACC schedule, their ACC resume is done after this upcoming week against Pitt. So we will see. Can Georgia Tech clinch a spot in Charlotte this week and be one step closer to a CFP appearance, which would be huge for their program? We will see. Virginia, they just continue to win. Look, they lost with the backup quarterback. Virginia wins. Louisville lost, so they're done. Right now, in terms of the title race, it's very intriguing because there's Georgia Tech there. There's obviously still Pitt there. Miami has an outside shot. Virginia there. Duke's now done, probably. It's a very intriguing conference, but it can be intriguing. And we can also say, like, bro, it's a disaster, which it is. So, yeah, great win. Let's go here to USC. USC at home, after being down 21-7, they beat Iowa to keep their playoff hopes alive, 26-21. USC in this football game, it was rainy. It looked like, oh my goodness, here we go. Iowa was dominating the game early. Offensively, they were doing mostly whatever they wanted, mainly on the ground. 183 yards on the ground. But in the second half, that USC defense showed up, played their tails off. They stopped the run. They were able to get after Gronowski. Gronowski threw a pick. And also the offense kind of figured it out. They had a balance with Maava. That's a very tough Iowa defense to go against. The big thing I saw was no interceptions for Maava against an Iowa defense that loves to turn you over. They did not allow them to turn them out. They did not allow. Maava did not give the ball to Iowa. That's basically the point. Did not give them the ball. This is a big one. Look, USC, they have Oregon this upcoming week. They've got an outside shot at the playoff. And they still technically have a shot at the Big Ten title game. Obviously, again, Ohio State, Michigan is going to be massive. College game days going to Oregon again for you, and it's USC at Oregon. Classic Pac-12 battle in the Big Ten. The loser of this game is out of the Big Ten title race. The in the Depending on some results, maybe out of the playoff. And I say that because Oregon, with 2 losses, it will be interesting. USC, they'd be done with 3 losses. Look, we'll see. It's a massive game this upcoming week. I also thought in this game, USC, Makai Lemon's just a stud. NFL draft guy. He's just a stud. He's just very good. This is a different USC team. What I mean by that is the toughness that they have showed in some of these games. They didn't out tough Iowa, but they were tough enough to win the game. They out tough Michigan earlier this season, which I was shocked by. Because the Illinois game looked like it was gonna, when that game happened, looked like it's gonna be same old story with USC this year. But no, Lincoln Riley, he's got them going in the right direction. 8-2. If they win their next 2 games, they could be in the playoff. Now look, if they get to the Big Ten championship and lose, that complicates things because they'd be 10-3. But with a loss to probably Indiana, I'd assume they'd be out, but I don't know. It again, there are a lot of chaos scenarios that can happen with the CFP, but we're gonna stick to this. USC, it's a great win. The defense in the second half really played great. It's another tough loss for Iowa. Again, you lose by 2 to Oregon. You lose on the last drive to Indiana. You lose to Iowa State by 3. And now you lose this one after you're up 21-7. It's tough. It's a tough season for Iowa in terms of these losses. And I expect them to drop out the top 25 tonight as well. 2 straight losses. But great win for USC. Okay, now let's go to the game that created the most chaos in terms of CFP. Oklahoma shocks Alabama 23-21 for the second year in a row. Oklahoma has beat Alabama. Let's be honest about this game. Oklahoma's offense didn't do much. they didn't do much. The reason they won this game, to me, was defense and special teams. Oklahoma back end was phenomenal. Their front 7 was phenomenal. They got to Ty Simpson. This is without R. Mason Thomas, who's probably their best edge rusher. They got to Ty Simpson in Bama, and this was the first game this season outside of Florida State where I really felt like Simpson for an entire game was uncomfortable and was off. He throws the 1 pick 6. That's bad. Look, 3 turnovers in the game for Alabama. The reason that Oklahoma, I know Alabama fans are saying we had no reason to lose this game. And from a certain perspective, yes, they're right. You're going to look at every statistical category. You're going to go, how did we lose? It's simple. Oklahoma valued the ball. You didn't. Oklahoma did not turn the ball over. Alabama did. They turned it over 3 times. That defense of Oklahoma really willed them to win. Mateer was okay. Like, they still didn't run the ball well. Like, with Alabama, this is a game where I felt like this is the best you have run the ball all season. I thought you were running it pretty okay, and then work out. Look, Oklahoma still didn't run the ball well. Like they averaged 2.6 yards per carry. Like offensively, they didn't do anything. Like they were okay. They were the Alabama's defense was shut down. Phenomenal. The offense lost them this game. I don't know how many times you could say that. That was on my bingo list that the offense losing them this game, but offense and special teams too. Special teams was they gave up some big returns. I just think Oklahoma, from a defensive standpoint, did a nice job saying, you know what, we are gonna blitz, and we're also gonna rush four. We're just going to get after you. We are going to make Simpson in the pocket as uncomfortable as possible. They were able to do that, and that's why they won the game. Now Oklahoma here, it will be interesting to see what the committee does this win. Win your next two games, which are at home against Missouri and Mizzou, and you're in the playoff. Brent Venables, and what would this be? This is year 4. Oklahoma, good chance they could be in the playoff. And also, I think you have to think about it like this as well. This is a guy that would be okay with. If you looked at that schedule to start the season, you go, dang, we got to play LSU, Mizzou, Auburn's going to be improved. We got Michigan early in the season. South Carolina still going to be. We think they're going to be good. Still got to play Texas. Oh man, and we got to play Ole Miss. Like we'll be lucky to get 8-4, 9-3. You have to think about this. He could go 10-2, and he could be in the college football playoff with still a reasonably tough schedule. And with a quarterback who has not been, like, he's been good this year, but has not been great. You're going to have to give a lot of props to Venables. In terms of Alabama, we know what it's going to come down to. They announced some of the times. Thanksgiving weekend, Iron Bowl, Auburn most likely, as long as they don't lose this week to some non-P4 team. They'll be playing for a bowl game. Iron Bowl, 7:30 in Jordan Hare Stadium. Alabama win and you're in the playoff. Lose and it's over. Right now, it looks like we are heading towards an A&M and could be A&M in Georgia as of right now in terms of the SEC title game, which I'd love to see that. Georgia will probably move into a top 4 spot when the committee's rankings come out tonight. Look, we'll see. Look, Alabama, that's a tough loss. You can't. If you won that game, you were almost automatically guaranteed the spot, unless you just lost your last two, which you're not losing to Eastern Illinois. I don't care. So, yeah, and now it now begs the question for Alabama on the road where you struggled against unranked teams. They're going to be ready to go, but Auburn's going to be ready to go. Auburn has the chance to knock DeBoer and Alabama with this team, which I deem probably the most talented in college football. This roster, they have a chance to knock them out the playoff on Thanksgiving weekend. Cinema. It'll be interesting to see where the committee ranks them, but yeah, what a win for Oklahoma. Let's get to it. Look, let's go. Let's kind of we'll go through a couple games quickly here. Utah destroys Baylor. Utah, it will be interesting to see what they do with them in the rankings as well, because they're still kind of They're 13th right now. How do they get in? Look, they ran the ball. They scored 55 points. They ran the ball for 380 yards. I mean, Utah dominated Baylor. Robertson has thrown for some big yardage this season, but they dominated. BYU bounced back against TCU. BYU were most likely going for a BYU Texas Tech rematch. If they win at Cincinnati this week, then that will be set in stone. If they lose, it comes down to the last week like it did last season. So it looks like we are on the path of that. We'll see what happens there. But Utah and Baylor both destroyed their respective opponents. Will we get three Big 12 teams in the playoff? I doubt it. But again, we'll see. Ohio State, they dominated UCLA. I mean, nothing really. Ohio State. Look, we're just waiting to see them against Michigan in the game and see them really get tested. That's all we're waiting for. Right now, they're just clobbering people. Okay, now let's talk about Ole Miss. Ole Miss beats Florida to essentially lock in a college football playoff spot. They find a way to beat a very talented Florida team 34-24. Florida gave them a run for their money. Look, Florida Lagway I thought was really good in this game. Florida, again, a team with a lot of talent that when they turn it on, they can beat anybody. They just have not had the on switch on enough. I thought Lagway played well. In the game. I thought both quarterbacks, yeah, they made some mistakes. I thought play well. I thought Chambliss lay in the game. Look, Trinidad Chambliss has been as good as any quarterback in America. The difference in the game was Keywan Lacey, 224, 3 touchdowns. Ole Miss's ability to run it on the ground is what makes them so hard to beat in the way they use Keywan Lacey. I think Lane Kiffin has been great this season. They're also quick point. I guess Ole Miss is giving Lane Kiffin an ultimatum, saying by the Egg Bowl we need an answer. If you're staying, great. We're gonna give you this contract. You're gonna sign this piece of paper, and we're gonna announce it. Or he's gonna tell you, "Hey, I'm leaving," which means you'll coach the Egg Bowl. At the end of the season, you'll resign. Not at the end of the season, at the end of the regular season, which means after the Egg Bowl, you'll resign, and we'll have one of your coaches coach in the playoff. I'm assuming that's going to be the plan. That will be very interesting. There, if I Lane, it's a tough decision. If I'm Lane, I'm staying at Ole Miss personally because I think I can continue to win here and build my legacy. But it depends how they feel, how he feels, because LSU and Florida are good jobs, like they're great jobs. It's just how does he feel about Ole Miss will be the question to me. But look, Ole Miss offensively, another great game. I thought in the second half the defense was able to buckle down, get some stops. I thought Ole Miss left points on the board. I thought they could score 40, but they left some points on the board. 538 yards of offense. They were better in the criticals than Florida was. In Florida, this is a disappointing year because now you're not even going to a bowl. But you'll see who your next head coach is at some point in the next couple of weeks. Who knows? But Ole Miss essentially punches their ticket to the playoff. Now, the final game. Georgia demolishes Texas in the fourth quarter to win 35-10. Look, this was a 14-10 ball game. Going into the fourth, Texas was in it. To me, the game flipped when Kirby got aggressive. When Kirby went for it on fourth down. When they got the onside kick. They flipped it on his head. That defense was incredible. Texas's offense couldn't do anything all night long. Gunnar Stockton, I thought, was great. 4 touchdowns. Is Georgia peaking at the right time? If again, it's a younger team this year. If they are, that's scary because they have the talent to go beat anybody in America. Mike Bobo, I think, look, he's gotten a lot of flack. I think he's been great this season. Texas, their playoff hopes almost done. We'll see. Does the committee just drop them and be like they have no chance, or does the committee potentially still crack? Maybe leave the door open for them to get in with 3 losses. We'll see. Chris Fowler said they will be the first 3-loss team to ever make the playoff. That, like, okay, number one, it's the second year of the 12 teams, so it's like this isn't. That wouldn't be an unprecedented situation. Like, oh my goodness, like, dog, relax. I don't think. I think their case gets hurt by losing on the road to Florida. I think that's probably what hurts them. And then the way they lost this game, 35-10, just start getting completely outcoached by Kirby. Texas just can't beat Georgia. What Bama is to Georgia is what Georgia is to Texas right now. And that's the reality of it. Georgia, look, you would think, oh, this is going to be a close dogfight. No. They just blew out Texas and they did what they were supposed to do. You got to give them props. And look, they play Charlotte at home. They'll beat them. And then they go to Georgia Tech. That game playing Mercedes-Benz. We'll see. I thought the UGA defense, the pass rush, they were able to get after Arch Manning. Did a really good job. Georgia, this is big time win for them. All right, everybody. This has been an episode of the Don't Argue with the Facts podcast. My college football ranking takeaways will be up tomorrow. I've been your host, Noah Love. And until next time, please like, comment, share, subscribe, and see ya.